Hello, my name is Elena and I am a designer. I originally come from Spain, but I'm currently based in Germany. And during the past year, I have been doing design research at the Bauhaus Dessau Foundation. Therefore, I have been living here in Dessau for 12 months, developing my master thesis in non-human agencies when designing with active matter. During my previous background projects, I always tried to critically engage with design as a transdisciplinary field that extends beyond traditional boundaries. But here in my research, I have tried to cover the gap that exists between the designer and the material, and therefore the paradox that exists between the human and the non-human agencies. I have done this through studying with mycelium, which is the selected encounter that works as a tool for this research to explore which is this relationship between the designer and the process and the material. I work from the perspective of nature as a co-worker, and I try to see the designer as a cultivator. I define design as the capacity of solving problems with responsibility and sensibility, and I like to also acknowledge that we as humans are constantly designing. So in a world where we are constantly designing our own lives, we should rethink our ways of living as a society. And it is here that I focus on our everyday life objects and how they are a constant process of transformation. So there is much that happens before an object is taken and after it is disposed of. So this opens a door into tomorrow to rethink about the way that we live with our objects. What led me to start working on this research and on this project goes back to my background and my education as industrial design engineer. So during my bachelor's degree, I basically was working on designing products for mass production that was very much influenced by a Western consumerist way of thinking. So when I finished my bachelor's degree, I started questioning myself and thinking, why should I keep designing for this model and for this system? Reflecting on it, I realized that everything was related on the materials that I worked with and how is this relationship with the designer and the material. And to question our everyday life products, like for example, the clothes that I am wearing or the camera that I am looking at, like I realized that where was the vitality of these materials, that behind them there are living stories, there are living entities, and it was here that it became a very personal work when I questioned my way of living and my perspective towards life, and I questioned a lot what does it mean to inhabit a material world and which is my human relationship with the environment. Throughout my work, I focus on the assemblage of the fungi. It resides in the forest, where a complex matrix is characterized with a circular metabolic process that matches the needs of the strain as well as the environmental conditions, which is humidity, temperature, gas exchange, oxygen, sunlight, plants, and most important, trees, which basically are the context of the fungi. In a sense, it is the nourishment that seeks to involve digestion and transformation, representing what nature is. Actually, the term fungi refers both to mushroom and the mycelium. Mushrooms are usually compared to the fruits that people daily buy at supermarkets, but what is being emphasized here is the root of this fruit, which is the mycelium, and which is the basis of this research. During my research, I also study how the ecology of materials is related to sustainable ways of designing, and therefore I work with post-humanist ways of thinking and with readings from authors like Ron Bakari, where I want to explore which are the limitations of reducing our design objectives to production and commercialization. And also I complement this with other thinkers like Tim Ingold or Donna Haraway, where I can get to better understand how we need to get into a time where there exists a mutual relationship between humans and non-humans. The initial idea of my research has completely changed since the first day to the last, because it has been a very personal path where I have been able to learn and learn about my professional background, about my education, and about my way of designing. So at first I started the project because I was very motivated on getting to know which were the applications of these new mycelium-based materials and how innovative this was and how this was a sustainable solution. But at the end, I realized that it was not about getting to know the properties of the material, but rather about getting to know how we work with it, and that completely changed the way that I now look into my projects and into my work. I think that the term sustainability it's evolving when we understand its holistic meaning, and now we have the power to look into the past and learn from it and going into the root of the problems. So also for me it was very important to read a lot about the terminology of the word and being critical about it, and realize that it is more on our processes and on our everyday micro practices where the objectives of what sustainable means meet. And also in one of the interviews that I did, I realized that when we talk about materials in sustainability, we are not talking that new biodegradable materials will replace what we already have, but instead it will be an alternative. So what I want to say is that it is not about doing something new, but about looking at what we already have and work with it, work with the agencies of what we already have. So as an alternative, but not as a replacement of what already exists. During my journey, I have encountered a lot of challenges and limitations, but I would say that the biggest one was that it's been a very theoretical approach. I didn't have any final outcome or any final result, and that was a bit frustrated for me, and also it creates a bit a lack of proving this theory, but it was the intention and it was necessary to do it this way because I had the opportunity to deep down on the topic and also to get to know how other designers work. So I realized my case study that basically was visiting the workshop of Alea in Paris, and I also complemented with other interviews and other laboratory experiences, but it has been all from observation. I didn't have the chance to get into a practical project, but now it's great that it was this way, because I have all of this knowledge and this experience and background to start with the next step, that will be to have a final solution, or at least a tangible result. And this is a very broad question that goes all over my thesis, and I try to answer it looking into the methodology of the designer. So I propose to first look into the material that the designer is working with. Start your process by selecting a material and studying this material in a scientific level, getting to know its properties and also getting to know its context, where this material originally comes, how does it work in its own environment, and then once you have all of this knowledge, decide what to do with it, what to do with these properties, and what applications can serve as a mutual benefit from the material and from the designer. And for example, we can say that it's like when we cook, and we can do it in two ways. We can find a recipe and then go and buy the materials and the food that we need for this recipe, or we can decide to look at what we already have in our garden or in our fridge, and then start cooking and create a new recipe. So that's what I want to say when it comes to design. Dessauer gave me the opportunity to follow a very reflective process during my research, and therefore I use a walking methodology that helped me to interact with the forest as an active participant and to walk through a more than human world. So this was also very important for my literature review, and it was very much influenced by The Mushroom at the End of the World by Anna Tsing. And also, which is essential in my project, is to explore which is the context of the material that I am working with. So I was able to meet the fungi in its context, which is the forest and the trees and its assemblage. The temporalities and the rhythm of the design process is directly related to the human adaptability towards matter, and also it is relevant that here I am combining design with biology and agriculture. So what it means is that the designer needs to adapt to what is needed and to the environment, and it's the designer meaning, it's not reduced to a fixed definition, to a person or to a profession. And also the handcrafted process that I studied evolves with every step, adapting to the, in this case, to the growth of the mycelium. So the designer and the process and the temporalities are based in what the material does and how it grows. I definitely think that sustainability takes part in every field of our lives, and during my research and my writing I constantly related to ecology, of course, and to its significance, and also with readings like reading Sweetgrass by Robin Wall we can understand how sustainable practices are acts of kindness, and also we can understand how our sense of reciprocity is totally connected to how we can achieve our mutual benefits with humans and nature. So also unpredictability is another term that I would like to highlight, because in all of this that we have been talking about, the constant process of transformation, the meaning that we want to understand out of sustainability, which goes away from institutionalized terms, it's that unpredictability, it's key to understand that we as humans have fear to the unknown, and we have fear to losing our sense of stability, but our world is constantly shaping and reshaping, and it's again a constant process of transformation. So we should be aware that we have to adapt to unpredictable results and to see our future as an open thing. I believe there is poetry in nature and in our way of understanding it, especially when finding a link between fungi and humanity. Mycelium has been a tool that joins my research, and not just an entity that derives contemporary materials, but an abstraction of my related anthropological readings. The mycelial person concept recalls humans to live the sense of control while recognizing the ecological web of life. In addition, it is also connected to not knowing where to go, which from a broad view is a state that takes part in our lives. Accepting not to have a plan and embracing a sense of loss that we permanently experience is the essence of these theories that stem from fungal spontaneous growth. And to question, is it necessary to design? Or can we grow like a mushroom and expand as the mycelium geometry does?